Good morning. Welcome to the City Planning Public Hearing. Madam Secretary, please begin.
Good morning. This is the City Planning Commission public meeting held in Spector Hall, 22 Reade Street. Today is Wednesday, July 23rd, 2014. As a courtesy during the proceedings, we ask that you please turn off all cell phones and beepers. All speakers should fill out a speaker's card at the desk outside of Spector Hall. In addition, we ask that those providing testimony please identify yourself, limit your remarks to 3 minutes, and speak clearly into the microphone. I will now call the roll. Chairman Weisbrod.
Here.
Vice Chair Knuckles.
Here.
Commissioner Battaglia.
Here.
Commissioner Besser.
Here.
Commissioner Cantor.
Here.
Commissioner Cerullo.
Here.
Commissioner De La Uz.
Here.
Commissioner Del Turo.
Here.
Commissioner Dweck.
Here.
Commissioner Edie.
Here.
Commissioner Levin.
Here.
Commissioner Marin.
Here.
A quorum is present. The first item is the approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of Wednesday, June 25th, 2014, and special meeting of Monday, July 21st, 2014.
On the minutes, can I have a motion to approve? Both minutes. All in favor?
Aye.
Minutes are approved.
Scheduling. On calendar numbers 1 through 11, we have resolutions for adoption, scheduling Wednesday, August 6, 2014, for a public hearing to be held in Spector Hall, 22 Reade Street.
On the resolutions, a motion to approve?
Motion. Second.
All in favor? Resolutions are approved.
The next part of the calendar is the report section on page 17. Borough of the Bronx, calendar number 12, CD4, C090189, MMX, in the matter of an application for an amendment to the city map concerning Grant Avenue demapping and park mapping. For a favorable report on calendar number 12, Chairman Weisbrod.
Yes.
Vice Chair Knuckles.
Yes.
Commissioner Battaglia.
Yes.
Commissioner Besser.
Yes.
Commissioner Cantor.
Yes.
Commissioner Cerullo.
Yes.
Commissioner De La Uz.
Yes.
Commissioner Del Turo.
Yes.
Commissioner Dweck.
Yes.
Commissioner Edie.
Yes.
Commissioner Levin.
Yes.
Commissioner Marin.
Yes.
A favorable report has been adopted on calendar number 12. Borough of Manhattan, calendar number 13, CD2, C140263, ZSM, in the matter of an application for the grant of a special permit concerning 155 Mercer Street. For a favorable report on calendar number 13, Chairman Weisbrod.
Yes.
Vice Chair Knuckles.
Yes.
Commissioner Battaglia.
Yes.
Commissioner Besser.
Yes.
Commissioner Cantor.
Yes.
Commissioner Cerullo.
Yes.
Commissioner De La Uz.
Yes.
Commissioner Del Turo.
Yes.
Commissioner Dweck.
Yes.
Commissioner Edie.
Yes.
Commissioner Levin.
Yes.
Commissioner Marin.
Yes.
A favorable report has been adopted on calendar number 13. Borough of Staten Island, calendar number 14, CD3, N140412, RCR, in the matter of an application for the grant of a certification concerning 24 Scranton Avenue for adoption on calendar number 14. Chairman Weisbrod.
Yes.
Vice Chair Knuckles.
Yes.
Commissioner Battaglia.
Yes.
Commissioner Besser.
Yes.
Commissioner Cantor.
Yes.
Commissioner Cerullo.
Yes.
Commissioner De La Uz.
Yes.
Commissioner Del Turo.
Yes.
Commissioner Dweck.
Yes.
Commissioner Edie.
Yes.
Commissioner Levin.
Yes.
Commissioner Marin.
Yes.
Calendar number 14 has been adopted. Borough of Staten Island, calendar numbers 15 and 16. Calendar number 15, CD3, N130193, RAR. Calendar number 16, N130197, ZAR. In the matter of applications for the grant of authorizations concerning Veterans Road West Commercial Development. For adoption on calendar numbers 15 and 16, Chairman Weisbrod.
Yes.
Vice Chair Knuckles.
Yes.
Commissioner Battaglia.
Yes.
Commissioner Besser.
Yes.
Commissioner Cantor.
Yes.
Commissioner Cerullo.
Yes.
Commissioner De La Uz.
Yes.
Commissioner Del Turo.
Yes.
Commissioner Dweck.
Yes.
Commissioner Edie.
Yes.
Commissioner Levin.
Yes.
Commissioner Marin.
Yes.
Calendar numbers 15 and 16 have been adopted. The next part of the calendar is the public hearing section on page 20. Borough of Brooklyn, calendar number 17, CD6, C120093, MMK. A public hearing in the matter of an application for an amendment to the city map concerning Dyckman Street map amendment.
First speaker is Anthony, is it Mango or Mango? Mango?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the Commission. I am here as the attorney for the applicant, Dyckman Realty Corp., which is proposing a change to the city map involving the elimination, discontinuance, and closing of a very small portion of the sidewalk, actually the city street, of Dyckman Street between Ferris and Conover in the Red Hook section of Brooklyn, in order to acquire that portion from the city so that my client can obtain a certificate of occupancy. The building was constructed, we believe, in 1990, 1991, prior to my client's purchasing of the property in 1997. My clients operate a mechanical contracting company out of the space and have continuously, since 1997, enjoyed that use. However, without the certificate of occupancy, obviously the use is not technically legal. And the portion here is roughly, as you can see on the maps, but it's a very small strip ranging in width from approximately 1 foot to approximately 5.5 inches. It's just a sliver that's about 18 square feet. And it's been that way since, as far as we can tell, 1990-91. And we're seeking to have that area demapped.
Any questions? Mr. Reade?
Thank you.
Just out of curiosity, would an easement or a license agreement have achieved the same objective?
We had previously been at the BSA. That was one of the things we had looked at, and they had suggested. But then, with further research, it just could not be done. We have to buy that property from the city.
So therefore, a license or easement would not have?
We were advised by BSA that this was the proper channel, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Levin?
This is no doubt a frustrating and complex and time-consuming process for not a whole, and expensive for not a whole lot.
Yes.
Do you have any, just out of curiosity, do you have any idea how this happened?
The plans were approved by the Department of Building that we had retrieved from when the building was constructed, and as best we can tell, which by process of elimination, the contractor just did not follow the plans.
So the plans were correct?
Yes, plans were correct on the property line, and the contractor had a bad couple of days.
You're being charitable.
Right.
Thank you.
Mr. Dweck?
No, Commissioner Levin asked my question.
Any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Mango.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Is there anyone else who wishes to be heard on this matter? If not, the hearing is closed.
Thank you.
Borough of Queens, calendar number 18, CD 12, C140291, PPQ. A public hearing in the matter of an application for the disposition of 12 city-owned properties.
Chris Grove, welcome.
Good morning, Commissioners and Chairman Weisbrod. I'm Chris Grove. I'm from DCAS, Department of Citywide Administrative Services. I'm here to talk about a disposition ULURP application. DCAS is seeking disposition approval of 12 city-owned properties. One of the 12 properties is a one-story former New York City Department of Health and Mental Hygiene building that is located on 146-39 105th Avenue in the Jamaica neighborhood. The other 11 city-owned properties are vacant lots that range in size of 16 square feet to 2,150 square feet that the city took in REM tax foreclosure. Most of these are small and only provide utility to the adjacent property owners. However, in order for us to solicit those adjacent owners, we need disposition approval. Thus, this is why DCAS is seeking disposition approval, so we have the flexibility to dispose of these properties in the future. I'm here to answer any questions that you may have.
Mr. Knuckles.
Mr. Grove, good morning.
Good morning.
We've seen over the past several months, in fact, I suspect you've been here on these dispositions.
I have.
I'm just wondering, has DCAS taken an inventory? Is there an idea of how many of these strip parcels adjacent to, larger parcels that you have in entirety, in your
Sure.
entire inventory? Are there thousands? Are there hundreds? Are these the last 12, perhaps? I don't know.
We got one more. No, I'm just kidding. So DCAS has approximately 2,000 properties in our inventory.
Okay. So
And
a lot
about
less than you used
1,000
to
of
have.
them are slivers in smaller properties like this, somewhere between 800 and 1,000. And since DCAS is the keepers of surplus city-owned property, it's in our inventory.
Right.
And usually we don't look to just ULURP these. In this application, This building was our primary initiative of why we wanted to initiate this ULURP application.
Right.
And we found that these were not ULURPed, and we felt that there still was a potential for them to be sold to some of the adjacent owners. Either there's only one adjacent owner, or maybe there was two. But before we solicit anyone, we need disposition approval because we don't want to bring up any hopes up if there was any interest in it.
Ms. Levin.
Well, Mr. Grove, I think you have the previous applicant beat, because you've got 16 square feet here. He had 17, so maybe that makes him feel a little better. But I want to ask you about Site E, which at least our briefing package indicates is being leased on a month-to-month basis.
Yes.
For use as accessory parking. What do you know about that accessory parking use, and is that going to, is whoever's using it going to have to acquire this because they have to provide the accessory?
Well, actually, it's an accessory business, but they're not actually they're not next door.
Right.
They're about I think they're about 3 or 4 blocks away.
Wow.
It's on a short-term lease, and it's I mean, in regards to they're not adjacent to it, so they'll have to.
But they're required to come up with this amount of parking.
Not that I'm aware of.
For their
No.
business. Oh, no?
No.
Oh, it's not
No,
required. It's
no.
not
Yeah, it's not
required
zoning
accessory.
Sorry?
It's accessory, I'm sorry.
It's not required accessory.
Right.
It's
Right,
just accessory
exactly.
accessory.
Exactly,
Okay.
Exactly.
Right.
Thank you.
Ms. Battaglia.
Chris, thank you for coming today.
Sure.
My question was really asked by our vice chair, but I'm curious. What benefit really is there to a property owner to purchase a sliver, 60 square foot sliver, and what disadvantage might there be in terms of additional taxes on the property? And what would encourage a property owner to purchase this?
Well, let me just give you just a little bit of background on this, because for the longest time, DCAS did not have the ability to do a direct sale. In regards to the city charter, we really only could sell through public auction, or to EDC, or to an LDC, or just a long-term lease auction, and that was it. But we had some interested people that had been contacting our agency about smaller properties, and we knew that wouldn't be something that should be in an auction and have a bidding over that. So what we ended up doing is getting legislation, state enabling legislation, so that we could have a window of time to sell some of these, because we had easily about 15 interested parties of different sites that expressed interest in small lots. So they found a benefit for their own needs. If maybe they needed an extra amount of square feet to build a single-family detached home. I don't know on the top of my head, but I know that we had interest for a while, and that's what caused us to do the state enabling legislation. We've only been doing this since about 2011.
And who determines, or which entity determines the cost to the nearby property owner if they so choose to purchase?
We do. We have an appraisals unit, and so we do it internally. And we take into consideration that something can't be built. But it's done by an appraisal.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
The decision on which properties, I realize all of these are in one community board, so that makes it convenient. But do you, on some of these smaller slivers, have preliminary discussions with the adjacent property owners before you decide to?
Only unless they expressed interest in the past.
So these will go through a disposition process, assuming we approve it, and then you will reach out to the adjacent property owners. Is that
Yes.
the way it works?
We send out a letter. And any adjacent owners that are next to it, usually there's one, but sometimes it's in between two. We'll send it to both.
That could mean a profit center for the city? Say, hotly contest which
Probably not.
which owner? Owner 116 feet? Maybe, maybe so. Mr. Cantor.
Thank you. Chris, let's try the other side of the coin, though. if the adjacent property owner does not want to buy it,
Uh-huh.
you can sell it off to whomever. Is that correct?
That's correct, we could.
Are there circumstances where the whomever can cause difficulty for the guy who chose not to buy?
I'm sure there are instances, but it wouldn't be, I mean, we don't want to cause that kind of situation. So that's the reason why within the city charter, we call it Saleway. And for this direct sale program, which the acronym stands for like slivers, interior, and access way. And those are like the lots that are unique and hopefully there just may be just one adjacent owner and we can sell it to them directly. So, I mean, we don't want to cause a rumpus.
I'm sure you do not, but you know, sometimes the unexpected occurs. Is there any way to know beforehand, before you put it out, to alert the adjacent owner of a possibility if it did indeed get claimed by someone other than that owner?
Well, I mean, we're not going to sell it through public auction, these small ones, so we are going to reach out and send a letter, you know, a certified letter to any of the adjacent owners. If there's 3 or there's 1 or there's 2, we'll send it to each of them. We make a heck of an effort.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Dweck.
Chris, can you give us an indication of the success rate of this program since 2011?
Sure. We've solicited approximately, there's been 60 properties. And right now, we've conveyed about 29, so we're about 50%. We've got 2 others that are still kind of floating out there. We're discussing and still going back and forth with two sites.
And then if they're not sold, they just remain in the DCAS pool and...
Yeah, I mean, just what they are doing right now. So this is just an opportunity for us to see if there is some interest, and if there is, then you know it relieves the city of that property management burden.
Thank you, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Grove.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who wishes to be heard on this matter? Any adjacent property owners? Troublemakers? Etc. If not, the hearing is closed.
Borough of Queens, calendar number 19, CDs 4, 3, 4, and 7. C140385 PQQ, a public hearing in the matter of an application for the acquisition of property concerning Roosevelt Avenue Bridge Rehabilitation.
The first speaker is Deborah House. Is that right? House?
Yes, Deborah Howes. Good morning, Commissioner and Commission members. I'm Deborah Howes. I'm the Director of Community Planning at AECOM. I'm here on behalf of New York City DOT in the matter of the application for temporary construction easements for the rehabilitation of the Roosevelt Avenue Bridge over the Van Wyck Expressway. The primary purpose of this request, this ULIP request, is to provide the temporary easements, but I will just quickly identify why the bridge does need to be rehabilitated. The roadway and bridge deck are in poor condition. The welds between the deck and the steel beams are overstressed under the truckloads. The steel structure requires localized repairs and painting. The abutment walls and piers need restoration and repairs. There's abandoned operator houses that need to be removed. There are existing stringers which support the deck roadway. Those need to be replaced. And the painting of the entire bridge steel structure, just the bridge itself, as identified in red on the image on your left, needs to be painted. Essentially, the bridge is not in good condition and does need to be rehabilitated. In order for DOT to handle this in the most efficient manner possible and to not have to close the bridge during the 45 months of construction, 9 of those months are pre-construction activities. They do want to acquire a number of properties, these 9 properties over here, to be able to have the contractor have a very close location for staging, so that the contractors will have their their trailers there, they'll have storage for their materials, they'll have road access that will not tie up the other streets, and they are in, many of these properties are owned by MTA or subsidiaries of MTA, and all of these properties would be returned to the property owners in full at the completion of the project. But because of these temporary easements, we do need to come to you for the ULURP process. So I think that's basically it. The bridge needs to be repaired. We need to have space to do the work. At least 2 lanes of the bridge will remain open at all times, and there will certainly be embargoes during any period of time when there's Citi Field games. It's about a mile from your seat at Citi Field. During tennis matches and other kinds of events like that, there will be no construction going on. I'm sorry, I should have mentioned that with me from DOT is Musa Nassif, who is the project manager, Ken Wu, who is the project engineer, and then Chi Lai and Wai Chen from AECOM, who have been the engineers on the project. Do you have any questions?
Thank you. Yes, Mr. Knuckles.
Ms. Howes, you had me at need repairs. Everything after that was kind of icing on the cake. I'm just wondering, do you have an estimate of how many bridges are similarly throughout the city are similarly situated? Because this one seems like it's not in terribly good shape, and it's obviously a very old bridge. Do you have an idea of what percentage of the inventory is?
Well, we do have it. There are a number of bridges. Musa, do you want to mention the number?
Well, if he has to sign up.
Sign in.
Yeah.
There are scores of bridges that do need to be repaired, but this is high on the list of necessary repairs.
Ms. Deleuze.
Thanks for being here, Ms. House. Kind of following up on the line of questioning from our vice chair. So I was just struck that the inspection that revealed the level of deterioration that is leading to the action today happened nearly 10 years ago. And so I'm just wondering, is this a normal timetable? Is this an exceptional timetable? I'm just trying to get a sense of that.
You know, I can't totally explain to you exactly the time frame in the process, but some of it has to do with money and being able to actually obtain funds, and that is partially why we're here today and sort of been moving very quickly with this ULURP process, is that DOT needs to be able to access federal funds that will pay for 80% of this, and that window closes in September. So in the past, there have been, requests to move forward various sort of bridge projects, but if there isn't money to repair it, the options are you continue to operate on those bridges so long as they're not in really dreadfully poor condition, in which case you have to close the bridge, and you need to find the money. And New York is not unique in its need for infrastructure dollars. But clearly, I mean, this is a bridge that does need to be repaired, and we are in line for 80% payment from federal funds if we get our deadline and we get your approval in the next few weeks.
Okay.
Mr. Cantor.
It's just an unfortunate fact that throughout the country there are too many bridges in this condition.
That's right.
And what's been saving us, I think, is the rather robust factors of safety that were built into these buildings, into these bridges when we started, when they were originally built. But I think it's a historic precedent, or it's a historic and sad situation that I think we learned the last time around when for the need of a paint job, we spent billions of dollars on our bridge repairs. But just one comment to you, please. I gave up my seat. But I would hope that the repair to the Mets will coincide with the repair to the bridge.
From your lips?
I won't even go there. So, just one other question, Ms. House. The relationship of AECOM to DOT, is that on this bridge alone, or is it, are
we
you,
work for them
their
on a number of
project manager
bridges.
on many bridges?
Right, on many, and I do community liaison work for them on bridges from time to time.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Ms. Pataglia.
Ms. House, thank you. The
Sure.
briefing package had all the material that you presented to us, but hearing it makes it even more urgent.
Right.
If approved, when would the construction begin, and how long would it take?
I can answer the second part more easily. 9 months of pre-construction, the mobilization, some of it paper signing, getting everybody in place. Then it'll happen in 3 phases. I think you can still hear me. So what will happen is 2 lanes will be closed, and they'll work on the other side of the bridge. Then the middle lanes will be open, they'll work on both sides of the bridge, and then the other side will be closed, and they'll work on 2 lanes. So each one of those phases will take 12 months. When it will start exactly will sort of, again, depend on exactly when those funds become available. Approval in September does not mean that a check gets deposited in DOT's account and they can start spending it. So typically contractors like to have some evidence that they're going to get paid within a timely fashion before they'll really start work. So that exact time frame, is still a little bit up in the air. But I'm assured that New York City DOT engineers continue to travel over the bridge.
That's very reassuring. Any other questions? Thank you, Ms. House.
You're welcome.
Musa Nazi, just to, if you could come up just to answer, well, at least, Vice Chair Knuckles' question.
Good morning. My name is Musa Nazif from New York City DOT.
Could you speak into the mic?
Speak louder. My name is Musa Nazif from New York City DOT Roadway Bridges. I'm here to answer
My question was, do you have an estimate on what percentage of the bridge inventory resembles the condition of this bridge?
Well, we have some, we have a system in DOT where we do biennial inspection for the bridges, and the bridge, and we get the inventory, and then we rate the bridges. We do some load analysis to find out what the ratings of the bridge, and there are a scale of rating from 1 to 7, 1 being the poorest, 7 being. So when the bridge falls below 4 ratings, it's considered to be, if it's rated 3, it's in poor condition, and at that point, the bridge goes on the program for reconstruction, which means the bridge is not capable of carrying the load as it's supposed to, and therefore it goes on the program. During that time, maintenance efforts will continue to maintain the bridge in safe condition for the travel public, on the bridge.
So is there an estimate of what percentage of the city's bridges are rated 4 or below?
I don't have a percentage, but all these bridges we have on the program, there are, I wouldn't say many, but we do have a list of those bridges. I can't really tell you the percentage on this, but we do have a quite few. The city owns 700 plus bridges, and I can't really put an exact percent on that, but very, very low percentage, I would say.
So if a bridge is, God forbid, rated 1, do you close it?
Well, we don't reach that point. When we do the inspection, once the bridge go below certain loading rating 4, then the bridge is put on the program, and maintenance efforts follow up to make sure that the bridge during the design phase, within 2 years, is maintained in decent condition to carry the loads, the life load, which is the vehicle on the bridge. And at that time, the design effort will be pursued, and soon after the construction of the structure begin. So from the point when the bridge rated low, it's put on the program, and then the city recruit consultant to do the design, and soon after the construction begins on the bridge.
Mr. Reade.
What is this bridge's current rating?
This bridge is rated, it's close to 4
It is
on
close
the
to
scale.
4.
Yeah.
Okay, thank
Which
you.
is they call it in fair condition. It's not, it's safe. It's safe to carry the motorists, the traffic
Thank you.
on the bridge.
Any other questions? It would be helpful. Mr. Cantor, go ahead.
Would you guess that the ratings of 4 or under, or would apply to 20 bridges, 60 bridges, 100 bridges that we have?
I would say maybe 30, 40 bridges.
Well, may I make a suggestion? Mr. Nazi, could you get back to us and just let us know, let the commission know how many bridges would be rated 4 or below?
Sure.
Thank you very much. Any other questions? Yeah. Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Nazi. Anyone else wishing to be heard on this matter? If not, the hearing is closed.
Borough of Staten Island, excuse me, calendar number 20, CD1, C140361 PPR. A public hearing in the matter of an application for the disposition of property concerning the new Stapleton sewer easement.
Rob Holbrook, sorry.
Good morning, Chairperson and Commissioners. My name is Rob Holbrook. I'm the Vice President of the Planning Department at the New York City Economic Development Corporation. Over the last 10 years, EDC has worked closely with the Mayor's Office, the Staten Island Borough President, the local council member, and the Department of City Planning to create a dramatic transformation at the waterfront Stapleton. We are excited to see today a visible evidence of the first step of that transformation. Since 2006, EDC has awarded construction contracts for $32 million of infrastructure improvements in the area. EDC recently completed reconstruction of Front Street for the frontages of parcels B2 and B3, and in June, broke ground on the construction of the waterfront Esplanade, open space access loop road, and reconstruction of 2 upland connector streets. Those public investments have spurred private development, and in 2011, the city disposed of parcels B2 and B3 to a private developer to construct the first phase of a mixed-use development at the Stapleton waterfront. This project will include ground floor retail, a waterfront upland public access connection, 950 residential units, of which 20% will be affordable under the 421A program. Upon completion of the open space, the property sale will contribute $2.5 million towards a public open space maintenance fund for the Parks Department. In addition, the private developer will contribute approximately $1.7 million over 10 years for the public open space maintenance, and will also be responsible for maintenance of the public access loop road. The foundations of the first 2 buildings have already been laid, and the first residents of New Stapleton waterfront will occupy these buildings in late 2015. As part of the Housing New York plan, Mayor de Blasio has budgeted an additional $95 million of investment in this neighborhood. EDC is close to awarding contracts to the first $8 million of those funds to reconstruct the remaining upland connector streets and the next section of the public open space. The remainder of those funds will allow the second phase of development for additional development sites to move forward. EDC is currently advancing the necessary design drawings for reconstruction and realignment of Front Street along the frontage of those development parcels and the open space along their waterfront. HPD and EDC are developing an affordable housing program for those Phase 2 development sites to meet the goals of the Housing New York plan. We are here today seeking approval to provide a permanent drainage easement to the developer of Site B2 and B3. The easement would allow the developer to construct, utilize, and maintain a connection to an existing stormwater drain and outfall on the city property. The utilization of this outfall by the private developer was always anticipated in the 2006 New Stapleton Plan and described in the relevant chapter of the 2006 Environmental Impact Statement. At the time, in 2006, we did not fully understand the legal mechanism required by DOB and DEP for the private developer to utilize the existing outfall. If we had, this action would have been included with the previous disposition approvals, and we would not be here today. The developer, EDC, and the City Law Department have drafted the drainage easement agreement, which grants the developer access to construct, use, and maintain the storm drain, and requires them to replace any open space elements that are disturbed during construction or maintenance. Our intention is to allow the developer to construct the storm drain prior to the installation of the open space. I would be happy to answer any questions regarding the new Stapleton Waterfront Plan or the design of the public open space. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Holbrook. Questions? Ms. Battaglia.
Holbrook.
Good morning.
I believe we heard on Monday that while 20% of the units would be made affordable through the 421A, that it would only be for a 20-year period. My hope and concern would be that the affordable housing would be permanent, particularly in Staten Island, where it's very necessary. I would think my colleagues would agree. Could you perhaps comment on that, or perhaps, I understand the terms of 421A, but the developer's commitment to consider permanent affordability?
I will, the developer is actually going to follow me in this week. I'm going to let him respond to his considerations of the additional duration. I will say we fully expect the future phases to have deeper and more permanent affordable housing in conjunction with the Housing Plan New York. But I will let him respond to his levels and his duration. If you have any questions about the rest of the plan or the open space, I'd be happy with that.
Mr. Holbrook, the disposition from EDC to the developers, that a sale, or is that a long-term lease?
It's actually going to be an easement, so we will.
Not just for the phase one as a whole.
The phase one as a whole has already been sold. It's
a sale, not a.
It is a sale. It is closed. It is in 2011. They own the fee that ship has sailed.
And phase two and phase three will be to the same developer?
Not necessarily, no. Certainly, we will most likely have a competitive process to establish.
Any other questions? Ms. Delahoo's.
Hi, Mr. Holbrook. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Commissioner Battaglia asked the question about the length of affordability, and I'm looking forward to hearing the developer's response to and their openness to deeper and or longer term. But I guess the question I have really has to do with the $95 million that you mentioned. Can you just repeat what phase that is for?
Sure. So essentially, we've completed or are in contract to complete the infrastructure that allows for these first two parcels to be built. Front Street was in dire situation. There were no sidewalks. There was no drainage in it. Really, there was no adequate access to the space. That was the first phase. The future phases, which will be to the north and south of this drawing, I probably have a larger drawing behind me if I find it.
Oh, really? Okay. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Here on this drawing, you see B2 and B3 are the parcels in the center. They were closest to the train station. They created the most value on the site and prepared the site for future development phases. Those were the first movers. We went ahead and did that as a first phase to create value in the future sites. That would be followed by either B4 and B5 to the south or A and B1 to the north. In order to make those possible, Front Street also needs to be rebuilt. In some cases, they actually need to be realigned. It's, the curve is too sharp. We need to straighten it out to make it safe. So there's some dramatic changes in the infrastructure in the neighborhood that need to happen before those can be built.
So as follow-up, so the 95 million really were for the infrastructure investments. And so did any of it actually come from HPD?
No, those are our city capital dollars.
Okay, I'm just clarifying. Okay, great. Thank you.
Mr. Cirillo.
It's not so much a question, but it's really just to put a perspective on this for everybody else. Just, and Rob, thank you for this, but and this is actually great. If just to put perspective on the waterfront piece here, if you look where B5 is in that area, that's sort of one of the areas we just dealt with, the additional parking for the ferry, where they talked about having along the waterfront, which would be part of the phase, one of the future phases for this. And if you go up toward A, that's where the siphon, if you remember the water siphon project, which connects Staten Island to Brooklyn that we did a few years back, which is well underway. That's the northern tip of this before you get, so just to put perspective on what's happening around there and sort of the location of what we're talking about. So just
Thank
really
you.
for...
Yes. There are also some agency relocation needs to happen. DOT dock builders are on the site at the moment. We need to find them another location before we can move them off of some of those sites. So it's an ongoing process of moving things and moving pieces to allow for opportunities in the future.
And I'm sorry, Mr. Holbrook, do you have a sense of the timing? Is it going to be an RFP for phases 2 and 3?
That's correct. I don't have a particular release date. We're actually drafting those RFPs now. The first step in that process will be HPD and EDC agreeing on the affordable housing program. Which
Well,
hasn't
actually,
been
that's
set.
one of my questions, but will you be doing phase 2 and phase 3 together, or two? And
Yet to be determined. Most likely, I would assume that they would not be together, but that is yet to be determined.
And this may be too early for you to answer, given the fact that you're still talking to HPD. But do you have a sense yet whether there will be an affordability percentage in the RFP, or will that be the amount of affordability be one of the competitive factors in which to determine the ultimate developer that you select?
Yet to be determined, but I would expect the earlier that we would have a percentage and target
A minimum,
levels,
and then
target levels set.
presumably
If
making
anything
more
than
a
that, that
competitive
would, of
factor.
course, yes, and that would be one of the considerations of the RFP would be
Okay.
deeper or more.
Okay. Any other questions? Yes, Mr. Cirillo.
It's actually a question. I actually have a question and not just, in the future RFP, will there be a reference, because this is a very critical point, and I know in other communities and other waterfront developments, the connectivity has been a critical part of what we have focused on and what the communities have focused on.
Yes.
And will there be a reference at all or a requirement in terms of connecting all of these really significant and exciting projects along the waterfront, particularly to the ferry and, to the lighthouse museum, all of what's happening that you are
Right.
involved in,
Yes.
the agency is involved in? Will that be part of this? Can we envision that will be part of this? Because there are big gaps at this point in time, the way these projects have come online. There are very big gaps in how all of this connects to the waterfront and the Esplanade
Right.
and the Greenway and all of these ideas that have been out there.
The RFP, it's yes and no. That's certainly an issue that has been brought up to us by the local community. Councilmember Rose has been a strong advocate for a continuous greenway all the way to the ferry, and we've heard that strongly. The 2006 plan, the new State Plan Waterfront Plan, actually sort of established that context in that waterfront access plan. It requires upland connections through some of these development parcels where they would be appropriate according to the waterfront plan. And of course, we will retain, and Parks Department will maintain the actual esplanade itself. The development parcels, although they have those upland connections through them, are not part of that continuous greenway. The city will be designing, managing, and building that waterfront continuous greenway, and it does continue from this point all the way up to the ferry. As you said, there are some pieces cut out of that where that connection needs to be made through private property, but wherever we have public property, we have the ability to control that.
Okay, well, I hope that through the process, and that'll come at another time, that there'll be, everyone can sit down at the table and try to figure out how to make all that happen. So, but thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Holbrook.
Thank you.
Michael Dorada?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. My name is Michael Dorada. I am a principal with Iron State Development. Our affiliate, Homeport One LLC, is co-applicant with SBS and New York City EDC. The Staten Island Homeport site has had a long history of redevelopment plans and proposals that never materialized. We, along with New York City EDC, have advanced this redevelopment to a point where today construction is underway on an exciting new residential and commercial project and new public open space. The approved development consists of approximately 950 residential apartment units and 30,000 square feet of commercial space, restaurants, and shops. The first construction phase, which is underway, contains 571 residential units and approximately 27,000 square feet of commercial space. It is a $160 million development investment. It is 20% affordable housing, a total of 115 affordable units. These are 18 of these units are at 40% AMI, and 97 are at 50% AMI. These units remain under rent stabilization for 35 years from completion of construction and as long as the existing tenants remain in place thereafter. The units are dispersed throughout the building and enjoy the same finishes and amenities as the market rate units. In all, this project will have as many as 190 affordable units when complete. It is important to note that the area of the easement that is within the esplanade contains only an underground drainage pipe. No manhole or other visible structures requiring maintenance are in the green area of the esplanade. The stormwater system collects runoff from roofs and other impervious surfaces and provides water quality filtration before discharge to the outfall. Prior to the redevelopment, stormwater from the site was discharged to the outfall untreated, unfiltered. The action before you is for the disposition of an 18,000 square foot easement for an underground drainage connection to an existing stormwater outfall on city property. This is a follow-up action that will facilitate timely completion of two important projects that are currently in progress: the New York City EDC construction of the Esplanade open space and construction of the mixed-use residential project. The action requested in this ULURP is totally consistent with the 2006 environmental impact statement and subsequent 2010 technical memorandum. The application has received unanimous approval from Community Board 1 in Staten Island and the full support of the Staten Island Borough President. The development project is creating approximately 350 permanent jobs and over 1,000 direct and indirect construction jobs. I thank you for your time in this matter.
Thank you, Mr. Dorada. Questions? Ms. Vitaglia.
Thank you for your description of the project and your focus on the affordable piece. I'm glad to see that over 15% will be targeted for people at 40% of AMI and lower, and that the balance at 50%, because those are the populations that find it hardest to achieve affordable housing, particularly in new developments. You mentioned that rent stabilization would apply for a period of 35 years. Did you say as long as the original tenant resided? Could you expound on that, please?
My understanding is that at the 35th year, the tenants that are in place in the affordable units remain rent stabilized until such time that they vacate that apartment.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Ms. Deluz.
Hi, Mr. Dorada, thanks for being here. Sure. I'm just wondering if you can, and perhaps you know this off the top of your head and maybe not, do you know what market is in terms of area median income in this area of Staten Island?
I don't have those statistics off the top of my head, I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I'm just wondering how the affordable units compare to the overall market in the area, and what an income is for a family of 4 in that community board.
I wouldn't know that specific data.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Dorado? Thank you, Mr. Dorado.
Thank you.
Deirdre Carson.
I was only here as backup, and unless you have some questions. Deirdre Carson from Greenberg Traurig, we represent Homeport.
Any questions for Ms. Carson? Thank you, Ms. Carson.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who wishes to be heard on this matter? If not, the hearing is closed, and I believe that is the last item before us, Madam Secretary.
That's correct.
I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
So done. Thank you all.
Okay.